Good day, my name is Maria Kądzielska and you are watching Poland Daily Culture. In this very room, in the Royal Castle in Warsaw, the Constitution of 3rd May was passed. Look at it and imagine how it needed to look like 230 years ago. Here with us is Professor Richard Butterwick, Pawlikowski from UCL. Thank you very much that you are with us.
Thank you for the invitation.
If you could tell us in a few words how you know, of course, historically, and also how you imagine that it could happen in this room.
The 3rd of May, 1791 is very well recorded by the official diary of the same, which was written up in a particularly solemn fashion that day for the purpose of separate publication. But the manuscript diary for the day also survives. It is also remembered by many who kept diaries or who wrote their memoirs later. But probably the best account of all was that written by King Stanisław August on the very next day. And this was an extraordinary day in Warsaw, Tuesday, the 3rd of May, 1791.
Looking at this room, I would say it's a little bit small if for all the people who needed to be the witness. So the king was here, of course. Who else was in this room?
Well, there were about 180 members of parliament, or the same in Polish, senators and envoys, or posłowie. And there were many more members of the public, crowding the public galleries at the top of the room, but also squeezed in behind the chairs for the senators and the benches for the envoys. And if you look at the drawings made at the time by Jean-Pierre Norblin, and then you see the subsequent versions of these pictures to commemorate the scene, it must have been an extraordinary squeeze of people that day. I do think that in the later versions, Norblin probably exaggerated the size of the chamber, but in his first version, you get a tumble of people moving towards the throne over there, in front of which Stanisław August, the king, had stood upon a chair in order to be better seen. He thought that he was going to speak again during the debate which had been going on for several hours for and against the proposed constitution. But the supporters of the constitution thought this was a sign that he wanted to swear an oath to the constitution. And the king, as he wrote the next days, thought, I saw that the thing could be done, so I did it. And so he raised his hand, and one of the bishops brought him the gospel to swear on. And so he put his left hand on the gospel and he raised his right hand, and another bishop dictated him the oath to the constitution. At which point there was a huge roar, and the king then led everyone out of the castle to the nearby church of St. John the Baptist, which is now Warsaw's cathedral. And there, lots of other people swore the oath, and they sang the Te Deum Laudamus, and then the king had the sacristy bell tolled again, and they came back to the castle to complete the formalities.
So they didn't plan it for the fact that the king to swear on the constitution. It was the spur of the moment, yes?
The royal oath was going to be part of the acclamation of the constitution that they hoped would be able to happen on the 3rd of May, but a great deal remained uncertain. There was sufficient opposition to the constitution. There were about 30 members who were opposed and a larger number who were undecided. So that after they'd read out the constitution in the late morning, it was not possible simply to acclaim it into law after a single reading. They had a debate, and the debate is well worth reading. There were many important arguments for and against the principles of the Constitution. There were many appeals to divine providence, that this was a moment that God had sent in which it was possible to rescue the Commonwealth. But in the end, the pressure for the constitution grew greater. Some of those who had been wavering moved over, and then we got this kind of spontaneous moment when it became that critical moment when it became possible for the king to swear the oath and seize the opportunity. But it was a highly irregular way of doing things.
Why could anyone oppose? What were the arguments against the Constitution?
The arguments against the Constitution were partly to do with the content, and above all, it was the idea that in place of the free and ancient republican form of government, especially with free royal elections, that this was going to be replaced by what was called a monarchy, that is, with stronger royal power and, above all, the hereditary succession to the throne. The argument in favour of this was that interregna and royal elections had caused chaos, they'd invited in foreign powers, caused civil wars, and it was time to regularise this. But this was a real step for many people, and it was not possible for everyone to accept this straight away. Many people thought that this was going to be a step towards slavery. But the arguments on the other side proved rather stronger. The other problem was procedural. According to normal procedures, and a project for a new law should have been printed in advance and distributed 3 days before the debate, and then it should be debated at length. Now, if that had happened, the Constitution would probably have been taken apart clause by clause by its opponents, who would have used every procedural trick available to delay it. And time was of the essence. The Constitution had to be accepted all at once and quickly. And so there were real procedural objections as well. Some people have even called this a kind of coup d'etat.
Well, very interesting coup d'etat, and I'm happy that with this small trick, it was able and they were able to pass it. And if you, the viewers of Poland Daily, want to learn a little bit more what happened later with the Constitution, what was the influence of it and the idea, stay with us for another episode. And thank you very much for watching Poland Daily Culture.